Also, we had published a video from Doc. Doc is one of our staff members over here, and we call him Doc because he has a PhD and he's a metallurgist, very high end metallurgist, and he's also a gun guy, which is super handy for us. He was doing some testing with a Weatherby rifle, 300 Weatherby, and we were just, he's just shooting at 100 yards. He's not planning on taking really long shots out there. He's doing some plains game hunting. Doc has been to Africa before, and he's always wanted to go back, and he's even invited me. But right now he was supposed to go last year with COVID. I had thought about going, but then the way everything kind of transpired with everything with the business, there was really no way. It's kind of fortuitous that that it all got canceled, because there was really no way I was going to be able to go anyway, because it's a 2-week trip probably with travel. You just don't fly to Africa for 3 days and fly back, because it probably takes you, it takes you 2 days to get there. But what's interesting is we had some people, I'm going to say younger, but from a different generation, going to Africa. And they were wondering why 300 Weatherby. And it's why would you choose that cartridge? And it was a legit question. And honestly, I just had never really considered it. But I think it's more reflection of a generational shift in consumers of firearms. And if you're a Weatherby guy, I'm not going to try to offend you here, but I'm just going to speak the truth as kind of where we're at. So today, if you look at the gun community, if you look at the gun market, like, the makers, like let's say the high-end makers, whether you're talking 1911 guys or whether you're talking, say, maybe George Gardner Gap guns, or Kevin Brittingham up there in New Hampshire. He's a big hunter from Q. And, these are names they're kind of cool names. They're contemporary names. They're well-known names in certain circles. Obviously, Gardner's well-known. I mean, there are other in the rifle, in the precision rifle world. And if I don't name you, it's not that I'm excluding you. It's just there's just too many to name. But brands as a brand, or even technology, they go through a cycle, kind of like clothing. Fubu was a real popular clothing brand for a while, and Fubu was, kind of peaks and it kind of goes. It's kind of like acid wash jeans, like they kind of come in a, peak and they kind of go, or like maybe bell bottoms or something, Well, that happens in the firearms community as well. And so, a long time ago, there was a guy named Roy Weatherby, and I'm not expert on Weatherby. I'm just going to give the 5-cent version of Roy Weatherby. Roy Weatherby was a custom gunsmith, and his big maybe in the 50s. He might have been coming up stuff in the 40s, but I think he really probably hit his commercial success in the 50s. And his big, shtick or claim to fame or selling point, or what set him apart from all the other guns at the time. And again, a lot of people, shooting either Africa big game guns, these giant, 500 Jeffrey or Holland and Holland, or some of these giant monster calibers, or, the Milsurp stuff, 30-06 or maybe 270. 270 is not Milsurp, but you see my point. Or 30-30. His angle was speed. So what he would do is he would basically take existing calibers. I mean, he wouldn't invent a whole new caliber. Not that I don't think he did. I mean, he very well could have. But say like Doc's gun, 300 Weatherby. So instead of a 300 Winchester Magnum, belted Magnum, Roy Weatherby would take a I can't remember what Doc said that caliber was based off of. Is it the case actually might be a 375 Holland and Holland case, and necked down to 300, and longer case, more powder. It's still a a banded. Did I say rimmed? I meant a banded case. So you know, it headspace is off of a band at the base. It's based off an old caliber and older technology. So, but you know, these guns, Roy Weatherby, man, they're barrel burners. I mean, these things, they haul ass. And so, especially the lighter ones, you know, if you're someone who hunts, and snipers are aware of this as well, because, you know, you're hunting people. There's something called like a point blank range or a maximum point blank range, depending on maybe where you set your zero. A lot of hunters will do this. Tactical people will zero their guns at 100 yards. You know, hunters may zero a gun at say 225, depending on the caliber, because you know if they're gonna if a deer jumps in front of them at 50 yards, you know it's gonna be high, and if a deer jumps in front of them at 400 yards, it's going to be a little low. But you know that rise and fall of that bullet, you know, within that range falls within minute of deer or minute of kill zone. Well, you know, the Weatherby stuff, it's hot rodded. It's hot rodded rounds. It's, you know, it's not a 300 Winchester case that's just loaded hot. I mean, it's a bigger case. It's thicker, probably a thicker case. It's engineered and designed to you know, be faster. And I think the original Roy Weatherby guns, if I recall, the early ones, he was having Steyr make his barrels because, you know, I mean, Weatherby's kind of a hunting shop, but you know, if you shoot a fair amount, you burn these barrels out. So, you know, Doc is of a certain age and he comes from a certain time, and you know, the Roy Weatherby and his guns were the du jour gun maker. If you had a Weatherby gun, I mean, you know, you were kind of, you were swimming in the deep end of the pool. You know, you were a dude in the know. Whereas like today, you know, I'm not trying to, again, be disparaging, but if you ask most average gun guy hunters who George Gardner is, they would have no idea who that is. Well, so, you know, that's kind of why, you know, Doc chose to rent a Weatherby, because he's been into Weatherbys for probably 50 years. He's probably owned them for 40 years. But, you know, when Doc was 20 years old, you know, reading the gun magazines, you know, Roy Weatherby, that was a cool gun to have. You know, that was, oh man, I'm out one day, I hope I can grow up and, you know, have a Weatherby. Or maybe, you know, you're like, you know, the muscle cars, you see the guys that, you know, they were in high school, the Dodge Chargers or the whatever muscle car, they couldn't afford them. Now they're 40s, 50s, and 60s. Those cars have gone up in value because those dudes have money and that's what they buy. So, you know, the Weatherby gun, Doc chose it because that's what he's been into. He's got a bunch of Weatherby calibers, 270 Weatherby. I know he has. He might have a. He doesn't have a 25. I know he had a 25-06 that he sold. I don't know if he was planning on replacing that with a Weatherby. I know he's got a 340 Weatherby. So, I mean, Doc, his go-to hunting guns are Weatherbys, and that's simply why he chose it. It's not like there's some, if you're reading the John 1911 podcast and you're like, is there some magic reason? Like, are we missing out on, in the old ways, like, is there some secret, you know, do we need to be shooting Weatherbys? It's like, no, you don't need to be. It's not like that. There's no magic to it. It's, you know, buy what you want, shoot what you want, master what you want, hit what you want. That's really, you know, all that really is about. So,